Can Fnatic lose? Will Cloud9 go out in the groups? And are Ninjas in Pyjamas in the group of death? I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole, and you're watching PopFlash. Our first and only story this week is DreamHack Cluj-Napoca, which takes place in Romania in about a week's time from October 28th to November 1st. Now, this is a Valve major, which means there's $250,000 on the line, and of course, the groups were announced a little earlier this week. So, Jason, let's take a look at Group A, first of all. Now, the first thing we should say about DreamHack Cluj is, even though this is a Valve major, we've still got that best of one group stage format. The distinction for this event is that the second place game over there on the far right will be best of three. This is the first time we've ever seen this in a major, and I think probably an improvement. But looking at Group A to begin with, we've got Fnatic, Vexed, Cloud9 and Luminosity. And the first team we should talk about, Jason, as always, is Fnatic. So, Jason, a lot of people will see this as being Fnatic's group to lose. They, arguably still the best, the favourites, the best team in the world at the moment. But these are best of one matches. Is there any chance Fnatic will be upset here?
Yeah, there's always a chance, and it's not like Fnatic has been playing up to their standards recently. They've been in a little bit of a, I guess you could call it a slump. They haven't been looking good. I wouldn't say they're favorites going into this tournament, but they're definitely the best team in the world. I don't think you can take that away from them quite yet, just based off results. But Vex is a really promising, really young, talented team. Cloud9, if they get their stuff together, they can do some damage. And then there's Luminosity, who took them into overtime. A couple different times, back to ESEA Pro League Season 1 Finals, and also at the last major. So there's some talent in this group right now that Fnatic should be a little bit, maybe not worried about, but they should be aware that it's there, and they should be able to prepare for that.
Well, speaking of Cloud9, who you mentioned just there, they're in the second matchup in this group. They are playing Luminosity. And actually, when you look at their record against Luminosity in the last 3 months, they're 2-0. They've got a pretty good chance to advance, it seems here. Do you see Cloud9 surviving this group, making it out?
Jeez. Yeah, I do. And I also see, six situations in which they don't make it out of the group. That's the big thing right now, is these North American teams, Cloud9 especially, playing beneath where we want them to be at. You can't really have confidence in them. That's the hard part, is that you want to believe they're going to make it out, but you've seen how they play in North America at events, at international events recently. They just got beat up by Immunity over in Australia. All these, and everything that they've been doing in the past couple months has been worrying signs. They haven't done anything to really give us a lot of confidence in them going into this major. They bombed out of the last major in groups, so it's pretty scary. I mean, Vex is a team that can really take it to them. Luminosity as well, despite their record against them. These are two teams that can very easily upset Cloud9 in best of ones.
All right, well, let's jump over to Group B. We've got a hell of a lot of teams to talk about here, so we're going to be going rapid fire through these groups. This is the group with TSM, Flipside, G2 and Mousesports, as we can see here on the screen, and they're the two matchups. We've got TSM versus Flipside first off the bat. Now, Jason, TSM feel like they're the favourites to win Group B, but the other teams, nobody really stands out to me, at least. Is it fair to say that this is pretty wide open in terms of who's going to take second place in this group?
Yeah, it is, because Flipside actually is playing much better recently. Mousesports is playing, actually they have a lot of potential that they haven't reached yet. But if they hit that peak at the right moment, they can really steal one away. I think G2 is going to be the favorites to make it out in second place. But actually, I have a lot of confidence in Flipside based off what I've seen. I don't consider G2 to be that strong, especially since they've lost Scream. So that's going to be a very interesting group, and I actually expect Flipside to make that through, or make through.
You mentioned G2 just there, and Scream in particular. This is their first proper major without Scream in the roster. And they match up reasonably well against Mousesports. They beat them 2-0 in CEVO back in September, but they lose to TSM pretty much all the time. I think they're 1-9, and they've never played Flipside. What do they need to do as a team, G2, in order to get out of this group for you?
They're gonna have to beat Flipside. I think that's gonna be their hardest matchup. And since that's the crazy thing is once they lost Simple in this Flipside lineup, they've just been much better. Now they have struggled against the better teams, but I think they've looked good with Davkos. They're starting to fit him in next to Bondict, and those two guys are looking really strong. So really all this is just kind of who's going to follow up with TSM out of the group, and I think that's going to be Flipside. I think they have the talent. I think G2 also has a lot of talent. I think Flipside does better, on a team-wide basis. So I think the big thing is Flipside's going to have to avoid playing G2 on Dust 2. I think that's the map that everyone is going to know. Just don't play G2 on.
All right, well, let's move on to Group C now, Jason. And as this graphic loads on screen, I think it's fair to say this is the group of death. We've got Virtus Pro, Ninjas in Pyjamas, Titan, and Team Liquid have been dropped in the hot water up there at the top. Jason, pretty tough group, right? I don't really know where we go with this.
Yeah, this is, this group and Group D, both of them you can make the argument for the group of death. So Liquid gets a little bit unfortunate here, but especially when you consider Virtus Pro just destroys North American teams. Like, they just wreck everyone from the North American region. They just have no mercy on us. So that's scary for Team Liquid. They're going to open up in that matchup. I would expect Liquid to lose that. But I don't see Liquid getting out of this, unfortunately. We talked about in the past, and it's been this kind of feeling that we're going to have an opportunity for 3 North American teams to maybe get out of groups, and these group draws are just, this one especially, just brutal for Team Liquid.
Well, chin up, try and stay optimistic.
I'm so sad about it. I'm so sad about it.
Somebody who has been staying optimistic, Ninjas in Pyjamas, another team in this group down there playing Titan in their first game. NIP have been struggling for a while. They went through their ups and downs. There was all this speculation as to what was going on with them. But at the moment, there are rumors that they're playing really well. TSM have been singing their praises on Twitter, Reddit, all that kind of stuff. Is it likely that they'll be able to carry this apparent good form through into the event, Jason? Or is this a little bit too early to peak to a week and a half before the event?
Actually, that's the biggest issue that TSM has coming in, is that they've only lost like 3 maps in the last 30-some games. So, and they've all been to NIP. But that's kind of the one fear that everyone has for TSM right now, is have they peaked too early. For NIP, I don't think it matters, because they're just playing so loose. It just seems like they've gotten to this point where they said, screw it, nothing we're doing is working. Let's just go out. Let's just forget all this stuff we're trying, all this strategic things we're trying to change, and just play some Counter-Strike. And they've been doing really well ever since Dubai. So I would expect them to carry that on. Titan is looking better and better every time we see him play. I don't see Liquid. Liquid can maybe beat Titan and maybe beat NIP if they catch him off guard, but I highly doubt that. I think with the way NIP and Titan are playing right now, they're going to come out on top of Liquid as well. So this is going to be really big wake-up call. It'll be a good barometer for where Team Liquid is at, because we've noticed them improving, at least in the North American region. But for them to go up against this lineup in Europe is going to be very dangerous. I actually can see, I could see Virtus Pro and NIP moving out of this group. I don't think we're going to get a situation where NIP doesn't make it out of groups at a major. That would be shocking, I think.
All right, well, given the circumstances, that sounds like a pretty conservative prediction. Which brings us on to Group D. Last but not least, we've got Envia's Dignitas, Counterlogic Gaming, the third American team represented here in Romania, and Na'Vi down there at the bottom. So, walk us through this group, Jason. Is this pretty much Envy and Na'Vi's group to lose, do you think?
That depends, because Dignitas at times has been that tier 2 team that's knocking on the door to come to move up towards tier 1. They've had some really solid games at some smaller events. They haven't been able to put it together at anything like this. So, this is yeah. I mean, you got to say this is Envy and Na'Vi with a heavy lead in this group, but CLG has shown that they can play close matches in best of ones. They've upset teams like Fnatic. They took NIP to like 16-14 last major. They took Na'Vi themselves to 16-13. So in best of ones, CLG is a very dangerous team, and so is Dignitas. So while it seems a little bit clear cut, there's actually some good opportunities just based on the early format of these groups for one of these teams to make a little bit of an upset. Now, do I see it happening? Maybe, but either way, I still think Na'Vi and Envy are going to make it out. Even if there's an upset early on, I think going into that best of 3, either one of those teams should be able to just move on relatively easily against either Dignitas or CLG. So that's kind of what I see there, is Na'Vi and Envy is coming out. I actually think Na'Vi's been playing really well lately. Surprising after the major, they had a little bit of a dip heading into Dubai. They played really poorly, and then they came out of it just stronger, and they've been improving, and they've been getting better, and they've been playing really, really well together as a 5. Guardian's on top of his game. Navi's actually a very scary team, and I think a lot of people are looking over them at this event.
Last but not least, I've got some quickfire questions for you, Jason. So, quick as you can, give me your thoughts on the following news stories from the week. First of all, Hellraisers have announced that they'll be missing the CEVO finals.
Yeah, and they I mean, it's for good reason, at least from what they've said, is that just the formation of a new roster. This is a team that's had a lot of upheaval in their lineup for some time. And just with this new set 5 that they have, they don't want to make the trip, they don't want to travel, they don't want to come and play the event as a pug. They're focusing on SLTV and Face It back in Europe. So they're just playing the long game. They don't want to risk all this travel with a team that's very, very new to not have good results. They just want to be able to focus on moving forward and creating a strong foundation to build upon as a squad. So you can't argue with that whatsoever. Cloud9 did this a couple seasons ago as well, so there's a precedent for it at least.
Next up, Schneider has parted ways with Team Dignitas.
Yeah, that's a bummer as well. Especially they just qualified. And then now with the major coming up, he's going to be there, and Schneider's leaving. So that's tough for them, and that's always, we always question these roster changes coming up in front of a big tournament like this. But I think there's some personal reasons behind this as well. There was a death in the family. So just all positive vibes sending over to Schneider's way and Schneider's family, and hopefully we'll see him back on a top team. I know he's got a lot of support in the professional community.
Absolutely. And last but not least this week, over in Philadelphia, Team Talked won Fragadelphia LAN 6.
Yeah, that's just cool because it has the band iBuyPower players. It had AZK, it had Daze, it had Steel, even Mo was in there. So and A2Z was their 5th. But congratulations to those guys. No real massive amounts of competition at that event. I think they played against Enemy, who's a professional team in North America, who actually surprised me with how well they played. I know it's just against a pug, but a pug of fantastic players, and they individually all held their own and brought a couple maps close. So promising sign for one of the newer teams in the professional division on top of all that. But Torqued, I mean, these are guys that I think if they get unbanned and they come back into the scene, they're going to be one of the top teams in the professional scene pretty quickly, probably within 3 to 6 months. So that was cool to see them get a win, and they looked like they were having a lot of fun with it.
That's it for this week. I'm Jack Westerman, joined by Jason Moses O'Toole.
And we'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of PopFlash.